Hi everybody, I hope you're doing well and staying healthy. And for this assignment, what I wanted to do was just kind of I've got a visual representation of where I am with my study, but I also wanted to kind of share with you some exciting things that have happened to me with my study. And so bear with me for a brief moment. But these are some pictures of a virtual meetup. I got my IRB approval on March 27th, and then that was a Friday. And then the very next day, on the Saturday, I saw on Twitter that there was going to be a virtual meetup of educators and researchers in this program called Engage. And it was just kind of like an opportunity where this is a virtual stage on a moon base on the moon. And probably in the neighborhood of 30 or 40 people from all over the world were here. And I had seen the tweet about an hour earlier, and I hopped on. And then so you can see on the picture on the right there, those are just like, it looked like cartoons, but there's people that with headsets on all over, and just talking about at that time where we were with the virus going on. And then they asked if anybody had any projects they're working on. So then I raised my hand energetically, and then I got the opportunity to go up on stage and advertise for my study seeking participants. And from there, everybody could not have been more welcome and friendly. And so I got a few participants, some people interested. Then this was last week, middle of the week. This is a program called AltSpace, where it's very similar to the other program, but in this instance, those cartoons, it's not as realistic as the Engage program, but it's similar concept. Those look kind of like the Wii U characters, or the Wii characters, same concept, but this one was specifically a meetup for researchers with VR. So I was able to talk to people, connect, and just have some conversations and get more information, and again advertise for my study. So from there, since then I've talked to 3 educators, 2 from Quebec, and I learned you call it Quebec, not Quebec. 2 educators from Quebec, and then 1 educator in Ohio. And from there, I haven't had a chance to code those transcripts yet, but I've got it all there, and those conversations were very valuable in me creating this. So I apologize. When I create these presentations, I throw a lot of GIFs in there, so it gets a little busy. So I apologize for that. But my 2 theories, theory 1 is Dewey's experiential learning theory, and the second theory is the constructivist learning theory. And hang with me, I'll do my best to kind of explain what I found after these 3 interviews. And what's interesting is that these are very high-level educators, and they could not have been more perfect for the target audience that I was looking for. So when it comes to theory 1, Dewey's experiential learning theory, VR, when you're trying to implement that in the classroom, the teacher needs to change. You can't just give the students the headset and say, go for it. And in one instance, one of the 3 participants, she was using it in a multilingual class setting. So in Quebec, that's normally French speaking, but she was using it to teach English. And for her to find activities in the apps, what she found was that the students were much more descriptive in their vocabulary. The higher level thinking activities that she was doing was amazing. And taking one application that was meant for one purpose and retrofitting it and kind of hacking it to meet her needs of her learners was amazing for just outside of the box thinking. And then just the sound instructional practices, what she was doing, how she was using it, and then the results that she was seeing with the students is just a concrete example of how VR has enhanced her learning environment. And with that, she was very clear and honest with her students, saying that, look, this has the potential to fail, we can flop, we are learning all together, and the students were okay with that. And that comes down to being being flexible and anticipating issues like that. And it was really interesting to kind of hear her story on how she had to kind of go through and navigate that on her own. And she had a whole bunch of different activities all ready to go, but they've been on distance learning for the past 3 or 4 weeks, and everything that was planned had to get put on pause. And she was in a district with like 60 schools, and there were schools that had just recently gotten Wi-Fi. And it's in Canada, they're trying to figure out how to use broadcast television to use that for instruction. They're just not as far as technologically advanced as we are here in Minnesota. And it was interesting to kind of hear, when it comes to the overcoming of barriers, how she had to present to her administration, district administration, on the theories and how widespread it could be used, and the partnerships and just the selling points. And it didn't really necessarily get the opportunity to actually put a headset on the decision makers, but her rationale and how she presented it is how she was able to get the funding. The second theory is the constructivist learning theory, and that VR brings positive impact to student learning. And in the teacher that I interviewed from Ohio, again, I just put feelers out there. I didn't really research to see who I was interviewing, but I learned through this is that the person I was interviewing, I'm going to block out their name, they're an author of a book. I had no idea, and just this is a candidate for Teacher of the Year in the state of Ohio. And I complimented him just being on the 1% of elite educators in going above and beyond. And in his instance, what he did is he was able to get $50,000 in grants and has a class set of VR headsets. And his approach was he designed a course, and he empowered the learners to come up with the apps, to do the maintenance, to do the partnerships with the school and the community. And he released all control, and he let them be the decision makers. And it was a democratic process, so he let them choose the trajectory, and he let them choose the devices and the computers, and anything and everything related to that course that he created has since expanded to 2 sections. And in hearing about this, like the 3 educators that I talked to, they're in kind of lower socioeconomic areas, so they were fortunate to get the funding. But what we learned is that the results on the impact when using the VR is different, because they all have different backgrounds. And talking to one of the teachers from Quebec, it's more rural, and their district is so vast in that on one far end of the district is very rural, the other far end is more forest based. So to have an experience on one side putting VR, and the example was their students that have never gone 2 hours away from their home, and to be able to put the headset on and travel to Rome, hearing feedback from the students saying, it feels like I was there, like it was amazing. And for the students that are in like the more forestry, they have no idea about like the farming on the vast other opposite end of the spectrum. So what VR, that construction of the theories and the learning, is that they make meaning based off of what they know to be true, and make those connections and broaden their thought process and their understanding. And then when it comes to the collaboration with that, the teacher in Ohio partnering with the departments within the school, that was one thing. But in listening to the teacher with the multilingual, is that the impact on vocabulary was much more deeper and diverse, because they felt it, they empathized, and then they connected better rather than just reading the text. They were able to use those words the new words and then make better, deeper meaning from that. So it was just much more impactful rather than reading the text out of the textbooks. And then lastly, what I did is in the middle, I just kind of have that swirly arrows, and how these two theories blend together so nicely is because when the students are in those virtual worlds, they are making connections, they are experiencing it firsthand, they are making new meanings from those experiences, they're collaborating with others, they are reflecting, and it just the impact on learning in these three instances are very, very evident. And I can't wait to dig in with the coding process and to analyze this data further. But just from, I did these 3 interviews within the span of 2 or 3 days, so it was all just there. I'm still absorbing, reflecting on it, and I can't wait to go in and analyze the data. And I have to press pause on seeking other participants because the fact that these 3 educators were willing to speak with me and sign all the paperwork and find the hour to sit down with me, it was amazing. And I know this community has always been, from afar in observing it. I know that there are people out there willing to help, and if these first 3 are any key to what I've experienced so far, I can't wait to talk to other people because it's super data rich. People are willing to help, and I've learned a lot so far, and I can't wait to dig in. So anyways, I kept this a little about 12 minutes here, but again, I hope you're doing well. I'll see you all on Thursday, and be healthy and take care.